All right, everyone. Today we are talking about balancing big goals. I have got another interview in store with you. I am interviewing Coach Britt Tollinchi. And Coach Britt is a mom of two kids, a wife of a firefighter, and a working powerhouse coach. And she understands the struggle of finding balance and self fulfillment in all the roles we play in our lives. She's passionate about creating an authentic space for women who feel overwhelmed and exhausted trying to balance all the things on their plates, can overcome the stress, the guilt, and the burnout of never having enough time in the day so they too can reignite balance and joy in their lives.
Yes,
Welcome.
ma'am. Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, well, I had to. I mean, you say so much. I'm like, if any woman will go back into my podcast, they'll know that this is not a new topic, but I'm hoping that it is a new take on a very common struggle that we as women face.
Yes, because every one of us, we know we've got to provide, right, for ourselves and for our families. And what does that look like?
Yes, exactly. What does that look like? All right. So, how did you get to this topic of helping women in this area?
There were two times that I can remember. So first off, growing up and watching both of my parents, they were workaholics. How that story ends is in divorce. And I didn't want that. I just knew I didn't want that. And the longer that I spent in the corporate leadership ranks, I started recognizing it was the same old song and dance. And I hate to say it, right, for the sake of stereotypes, but most of the time it looked like the male who was carrying the burden of bringing home the paycheck, which then meant that he was working 60-hour work weeks, which then would normally end in a wife singing like a canary at a Christmas party about how unhappy she was. And then lo and behold, that gentleman would be divorced very shortly afterwards. And I just knew that I didn't want that to be my story. But even more than I didn't want that to be my story, I wanted to show myself that I could have both. I wanted to show my sister, I wanted to show my nieces, I wanted to show my girlfriends, like we can do this. It's possible. We've just got to figure out a way to pursue those big career goals, have it be okay, and have that be admired as much as momming hard and wifing hard on the other side too.
Oh my goodness, I love that. I can tell you that you have the heart of a coach because a coach is always the person who says, I want this and I want to go first so that I can show other people how to do it. Like there's got to be a way. It feels like there's not a way, but I'm going to figure this out and then I'm going to show other people how. And it's so funny. I find that we have these thoughts like even before we've figured out how to do the thing. It's like, I'm going to do it for me and others.
It's somehow, some way, right? Look around,
Yeah.
like it's never been done. It means I must find a way. It's, impossible just doesn't, it's not a part of the vocabulary.
Yes, yes. It's like
Yeah.
I am called to break a pattern that's been modeled maybe for generations of my life, but I'm going to break it, create a new pattern. So,
Yes.
okay. So, so you're talking about balancing big career goals and big home goals, because I'm
Mhm.
assuming you're saying I want to have the career and also feel successful as a wife and as a mom. And so, how did you realize that it was possible to do both?
I started trial and error a little bit. Having to have something come up at home. Someone would need me or would need something that I could provide at home while I was also needed at work, whether it was this meeting or, oh, the project has to be done by this time and date. And those two often collide because life, that's how it works. And then you feel like you're sitting there and you have to make a choice. Okay, get my son to the emergency dentist appointment or get this project that I've been working on for the last 6 months in on time. And our brains, I saw so frequently how I was in this space of the or, and again had that moment where it was like, okay, how do I make this possible? How can I get him to the dentist and still get the project in on time? And so by trial and error a little bit of, okay, I have to be at the dentist at 2 o'clock, which means I can, I can get the project in before noon and take the half day. I can have both. I can, whether that means I've got to go in early, and then just setting those boundaries and managing those expectations in both places. Hey son, I will be home at 1:30. Your butt better be ready to go so we can get to that dentist. And hey boss man, I'm leaving at noon, not 12:05, not 12:10. I'm leaving at noon, but I guarantee you will have that project on your desk by 11:30. No questions asked. So I started playing in that space of, how can I have both? And the more that I started playing in that space, the more I started seeing that it is possible, that I can still produce high results at work and teach others how to do the same, and still create those boundaries and be where I'm needed at home as much, for both parties.
Okay, I just have to point out to our audience, because what I'm hearing is this: your brain, first of all, wanted to say it's either or.
Yep.
And you caught yourself and you said, no, we're not going to go down that road. How can we do both? And I've said this before, but our word choices
So
are
true.
everything. To come to a better solution, we have to ask a better question. And so that's what I'm hearing you said. Now, I'm guessing this is something that you teach other women how to do.
I do, absolutely, because I want to see it on my own teams. And I've seen what kind of doors it opened for my own career, but I also saw the doors that it opened for my family. Because mom was successful at work, because mom was able to, hit those accolades and do those things. What did it do? It brought home a larger paycheck, or it paid for the vacation, or the company took us on vacation. That those kind of things, when you figure out how to do both, the family was benefiting from that as much too. And I just because I just kind of caught myself on something, I want to provide a little more clarity, because I think that, and I say this from the space that I've been in, where we go, okay, well, that paycheck is going to pay for the family vacation, so the paycheck and the job must go first. And that's a bunch of baloney. That's not at all. It's I know that when I'm showing up at home as the best version of me, as the best wife, as the best mother, I have the support at home that then allows me to bring that at work. And because I'm a more present mother and a more present wife, I get to infuse that into my 8 to 5. And that makes me human. And people like human. And that actually leads to higher productivity for our teams, because guess what? I'm working with a whole bunch of other humans. So when we are all trying to get to the dentist at 2 o'clock, there's a level of grace, and there's a level of, okay, what can we do? So it's not about prioritizing one or the other, or my identity is not attached to my paycheck by any means. But then, one fuels the other. So kind of going back to your question, because I know I went on a tangent there. So so how did I or teaching other people how to do this? So my teams have been recognized in our company globally for the leaders that they are. And I think what makes them the leaders they are is they are willing to be human. They're willing to be authentic and vulnerable, and to bring those pieces of real life into the work that we do. And that comes back tenfold all day long. So I preach this in work, outside of work, to my kids, to my friends, everyone.
Oh my goodness. I love it. I think that, for so long we have allowed the world to dictate the story of how business should be done. Like it looks like the devoted man who gives 60 to 80 hours. And the reason he can give 60 to 80 hours is because there's the devoted wife at the home who's taking care of all putting the fires out. And that's definitely my parents' story. Like, that was the choice that they made was listen, if we're going to make this work, husband and wife and raising 9 kids, then let's plan it this way. I will, my dad's like, I will go and do all the work and all the overtime and take care of this aspect of life, the financial side. If you can take care of the home side. And so, that was what was modeled to me. And it was very much in a spirit of partnership. And then we come to, the next generation and we're like, well, do we do it that way? Or do we do it the way that, does a woman go to work and work like that man, like the world, has kind of shown us that,
Yeah.
well, you've got to be completely devoted to your job, to get ahead in your career. And then,
Mhm.
there's the woman saying, well, I've got babies at home. I've got children. And, as much as I love my career, I am not going to say it is the most important only aspect of my life.
Yeah.
And so it's such I think just a um, transitional time in women's lives of how in the world. And so for you to say, I'm going to model this, I'm going to be my best for my family when I'm at home. And also when I go to work, I am not going to forget that I'm a wife and a mom. And also by me not forgetting that, you give permission to your coworkers and, the other people on your team to also say, "Hey, yeah, my kids have dentist appointments too, Let's all flex, let's all help each other, let's all help each other be humans at work." I'm fascinated by how much potential is there for higher productivity because we
Mhm.
are not acting like we are machines or robots,
Yeah.
but that we're humans. And because we're also kind of remembering that we do this work for these people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 100%. And two, going back to what you had mentioned about your parents, same experience over here where hey, it's great that you got the quality time with mom, but then where was dad, and how important you having involved parents, like how the way that that shapes us as children. And I loved, April, when we were talking previously, you'd asked this question about like, well, what are some of my big home goals? And one thing that just always stands out to me is like, I want my kids to know that daddy is my best friend, that my God is good, and that mom is a hard worker, but never at the expense of my children. I want them to admire me being a hard worker, but not ever question in a million years if mom's going to be able to make the baseball game or not, because that's what I experience, and sounds like maybe that's a little of what you experience too.
Yeah. Yeah. There was on my side, there was very much an awareness that my parents are doing the very best they have with what they've got. And yet growing up hoping that there is another way forward for me in my life, like that there's more opportunities.
Mhm.
And, and not as a criticism to the way my parents did it, um, but as a pushing on what's possible in this world, and I think that that's what every generation is kind of called to do.
Mhm.
Okay. So those home goals.
Yes.
When I when I ask this question sometimes, what are some big home goals? Most people say something like, well, we're hoping to buy a bigger house or finish the remodel of the basement. We're dying here, or Yours were so beautifully stated. I just love those. So, anyway, thank you for sharing those. Those are amazing. Okay, so what would you say are your three top tips for balancing big career goals with big home goals like that?
I would say top three come down to the power of and, boundaries, and communication. And if we break those down, so the power of and we kind of already talked about, how do I get to the dentist appointment and get my project done on time? The boundaries, just in general, about, for instance, even like office hours. I think that the office hours in general is such a phenomenon to me, because I see the expectation that even though you maybe are a salaried employee, or even though you are, the unspoken rule is that you're going to be available during business hours. There's also an unspoken rule that if the system goes down at 8 o'clock at night, you're going to answer the phone. And being able to establish office hours and being so okay with not answering at 8 p.m. And that's not something that comes overnight. I think especially with, right, like us women, we want to, not only do we want to take care of something that we would feel maybe falls in our realm of responsibility, we want to take care of that. We want to be dependable. We also have this fear that if we don't answer at 8 p.m., they're going to go to somebody else and then goodbye promotion. I should have answered at 8 p.m. Like we tell ourselves these stories. But when we can stick to office hours, it sets the expectations of our employer when we'll answer our call. And it also sets the expectations at home that when we're going to be home, we're home. And and boundaries, I always too, something that I teach in my coaching programs is to look at boundaries like swim lanes in the pool. So in the pool of life, we've got our swim lanes, and our swim lanes are held together by buoys. They are meant to be flexible because life requires that from us, but they still keep their shape. And if our swim lane is that, hey, 9.5 times out of 10, I cannot answer that call at 8, but tonight we've got a big system going live, I need to be able to take that call. Setting those boundaries and communicating that to my family, hey guys, mom needs to be on her phone, let's have dinner, and then it's got to be right next to me. Instead of just kind of going through life and just randomly grabbing the phone at 8 o'clock, because then they're not getting a present mother. They can feel that I'm somewhere else. So just being able to openly communicate that, hey, tonight's going to look a little different. That still keeps those buoys that in place, and the swim lane in place. And then tomorrow, maybe it looks a little different. So boundaries, communication. I also think, right. Oh my goodness. I've so done this before, but I have learned when we need to communicate something to our employer about maybe a priority we have at home, it is never in a million years, it should never, ever, 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 ever be, hey, boss man, I'm so sorry, but I have to take tomorrow afternoon off. We don't owe any apologies to anybody for having to be a mom who has to take her son somewhere. Like there's no apologies. It's just purely power of and, hey, boss man, I'm going to work a half day tomorrow. That project that I know you need from me will be on your desk at this point in time. I will be unavailable afternoon, but I can't wait to see you again Wednesday morning, and being okay with that.
It's so good. Okay, you guys hear the communication that she's talking about. Number one, I love that. It's like, it sounds like, you're setting an example for your kids of, hey, here's the guidelines, the rules, you can expect to have my full attention here. And also when you're like, oh my goodness, I've put this expectation here. Now I've got to break it. You're like, I'm communicating it, like, hey, I know we don't usually have our phones at the table. I'm going to have to hang on to this one because we have an emergency, then
Mhm.
It's so good. Communication, and I think there could just be a whole topic on advanced communication. Heads
Yes.
up, everybody, this might happen. Heads
Yeah.
up, it's going to look like this. And then, there's just not a lot of finger pointing. And I was thinking about your pool illustration, and I just remembering all the times when I'm like, yeah, I'm swimming in. Oh, sorry, I've got to go swim in their lane and help them because, they're acting like they're drowning.
Yes.
And they're not.
Not, they're not. They will
Yeah.
be okay. Or like setting boundaries and communication. I think about how many times I've gone to one of my kids' activities, and you've got the mom, and you could tell it is an important meeting she is in, and she is on her call, and she is moving on the things, she is making things happen, people, but she wasn't actually present at Taekwondo. She wasn't actually present in the bleachers of the baseball game, and how much that's robbing her of that experience with her family and her children, and that gift of being present, where if it almost would have been better to take the call in the car, let the kid be out there doing their thing, but then they're not looking up and just seeing you on your phone, because they know, they can feel it, body language, they know you're not present. So in setting those boundaries, if you had to take the call, do it in a designated space. When I started working from home, creating a designated space was something, again, I had to learn. It was, I would try to take the call, on the couch, but then the family would roll in after school, and mom would get mad. Guys, I'm on a call. But it's not their fault, because normally when they experience me on the couch, I'm watching TV, I'm unwinding for the day, I'm not in the middle of a meeting. So setting those designated workspaces, that would be another boundary. Communication. Hey, when mom is in my office and the doors are closed, so help me, gosh, somebody better be bleeding if you're gonna come in.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much. Okay, I've just got to add a couple more things to it. I
Yeah.
mean, just because, yeah, this whole, we can't actually multitask our attention. So for you to suggest remove yourself if you're going to take the phone call, it's just being very authentic to what's going on. Now you can give your boss the full attention or the phone call or whatever's going on. And you will also be kind of prompted to end it quickly because very much so that you are missing that thing that you were wanting to watch.
So true.
Yeah. And then that designated spot to work at home, and do not interrupt me unless you're bleeding. I, I just, I've preached this before. It's these moms that say, I can't take a shower and I can't go to the bathroom without my kids interrupting me. And it's like, right, because you haven't trained them. You can train them.
Set a boundary for yourself, for the
Yes,
love for yourself, set a boundary.
exactly. And so this is where moms have a chance to, and women have a chance to shine, because the same boundaries that you can practice at home. Okay, so two things. When babies come into our life, they need us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but not for forever, people. And so as they become more independent, then, we get used to, we're not up, listening to their cry all night long. They can entertain themselves while we take a 10-minute shower, all these things. Okay. That is training them to be independent. Then
Yes.
we go to the workforce, and we're
Yeah,
so
you're doing
eager.
a service for them. You are
Yes.
you are you are
Yes.
helping them in life. You are not you are it's that managing mom guilt. Mom guilt
Yes.
says I should, quote, I should. They tell me I'm supposed to be attentive. I don't know who the heck they is, but they tell me I'm supposed to not come up for air to
Exactly.
do this. But yeah, setting those
Right.
boundaries.
So one of your roles as a mom is to help your children grow to be independent,
Yes.
so there's stages. So then we go to work, and we're so used to taking care of little ones. And we look at our capable boss or coworkers,
Yes.
And we sometimes slip into this, I need to take care of you. And it's like, no, 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 no. They are allow them to be independent. And one of the things that you can
Mhm.
help them best is by setting boundaries on what you will and will not do. And
Mhm.
also recognizing I actually had a work situation where, for all my other jobs, I was pretty good about saying, hey, I'm available for this. And when I say I'm available, I am 100%
I'm
available.
in.
Yes.
Mhm.
Because let's get in, let's get it done, let's get out, let's all go home. And I had one boss in my career that was like, I need you, whether I need you or not. I kind of need you, and it's like, okay, well, I can work late on a couple days a week. I cannot work late, without any notice on all 5 days a week. We've got to have boundaries. And he's like, okay. And then we'd break them. And then, and finally it was like, no, I'm going to hold this boundary. If you can't live with it, I will look for another job, accept it or lose me.
Yep. How'd it work out?
Be willing to go there. I got a raise and I got my boundaries. I mean,
See?
see, you've got to be willing to go there, just like for your kids. Kids, I can go to the bathroom. You can cry unless
Mhm.
seriously, there's a knife sticking out of your back. And if there is, by golly, somebody's in trouble.
Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness. I don't know, bad parenting moment or not. I mean, I maybe there have been maybe we've crossed lines literally just the other day. My little girl, so she's 3 and she was not feeling well. So I had already been up with her all night because that's what mommies do. I'd already been up with her all night, placed her on the couch. It's like, okay, it's mom's time to go get ready for work. I will be back down in 10 minutes. No sooner do I get up the stairs before I hear, Mom, I'm like, 10 minutes, baby, 10 minutes. 10 minutes, I come down and I look at her, and poor little girl is sitting in her own vomit. That's why she called me, but she knew that 10 minutes for mom and 10 minutes for mom, regardless. I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not saying that's a good thing. I
It's a
appreciate
real moment. It will happen somewhere in it, but just because that happened does
that.
not mean that the principle doesn't stand true. That I mean, the kids and you honor the 10 minutes. I mean, and so she's just okay. I know mom's
Okay.
coming. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, that's I remember when I was trying to sleep train with one of my children, and there was I was like, oh my gosh, parent fail. This is one for the books. They were sick. This was not a,
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yep, yeah.
oh, but we have to give ourselves grace. I mean, like we're
So much
learning on the
grace.
job, you know.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, so
Oh my
much
goodness.
grace. Yeah, I love
Okay.
it.
So tell me, who do you help? And it's specifically, how do you help them?
So who do I help? So I'm best aligned to serve the working mom, because those are the shoes I'm in. So any of the tools and the techniques that I use or that I coach, I have used them not only personally but professionally as well. So I've seen that they work. I have simplified them so that they are easy to apply in real life situations. And what do I teach? I teach them how to unjuggle the struggle of life, because we're juggling so many hats, and we've got work and we've got play and we've got wife responsibilities and house responsibilities. And it can be overwhelming and it can be exhausting. And quite frankly, it can be really empty and unfulfilling at the end of the day. When you lay in bed at night and you look and you're like, well, I cleaned the toilet. I'm pretty sure I have to make a decision on if I'm going to do laundry or if I'm going to have a career. It's all so much. So I really align with the woman who is sitting there going, there's got to be a better way. I need a little more balance and joy in my life. And I teach her those tools and skills, how to overcome the overwhelm, manage the stress and the guilt, set those boundaries with effective communication, and really just make sure that she's aligned with the things that feel true to her. What are the goals that she really has for her family, for her job, for just our life, and making sure that we're taking actions and steps that are going to align with that.
Do you see those goals that she has? Are they common across the board, or do you feel like women have individual goals that you speak towards?
Oh, great question. I think at the root, it's the same. At the root, it's the same. We want to
Mm.
be present. We want to be good moms. We want to be good wives. We want to be good workers. We want to provide. We want to have quality time with our children. Women right now seem to be begging for just some quality time, even with themselves, for physical health, mental health. So I would say at the core, it's all the same. And then from there, maybe it just looks a little different in each woman's life, depending on her employment, depending on her, relationship status. Yeah.
It's good. Yeah. All right. So you've said, she's laying in bed wondering, do I do the laundry or have a career?
April, I cannot tell you how many women that is a common one. They're like, I don't know if I should go to work tomorrow or take the day off to do laundry. You're like, that sucks.
I love it because I know it's a real thing. I mean, it's not so I I wanted to emphasize it because if you feel like you are the only woman who has ever wondered how in the world how do you juggle the two? Right. So, what happens when a woman feels like she has to choose between the two?
That's when it's time to enlist a little bit of help. Or the option that I see is that the hamster wheel just continues to go, and you just
Yeah.
continue to get more exhausted, more overwhelmed, more nights in the closet crying because you just can't. So, and right, it's sometimes it's so hard for us to ask for help. Sometimes we have to spend several nights in the closet crying before we look up and go, oh my gosh, this isn't the life I signed up for. This isn't the life I want. This is, what am I doing? And then where do you go? And that's the person that I want you to know, like, I am here for you. I hear you. Let's talk. Let's start small and grow big.
Let me ask this. Have you ever seen women throw away careers they love because they just feel like they were good at managing both?
All day, any day. They just, the careers they love, and in the moment, it's I would refer to it as the knee jerk reaction. Women who they didn't want to quit, but they a lot of times it happens after becoming a mother, right? So they spend their young 20s, building up this career, and pouring their heart and their soul into something. Then they become a mother, and for our male counterparts, while yes, things changed, they change at a very different rate, for mothers and fathers. And so mom is kind of sitting there, and now we're in this new identity, right? We have to find our new identity of who we are as a mother and what that looks like and who we want to be. Well, dad's still providing. I I guess now I have to pay for childcare. I guess my option is I stay home. And these women who were fueled, by being in the boardroom, they lose that for a little bit, and then they spend a long time trying to find it again. I don't think it's like motherhood replaces the joy of being it. They're different. They're different. Our aspirations as a mother versus our aspirations as a leader in corporate, they're different, and they serve different purposes. And sometimes I see all too often we try to put one inside the other, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's so important to highlight what you called the knee jerk reaction. Because if all of a sudden you're thinking about quitting work just because you had a baby and you're feeling overwhelmed, then you need to be aware that that might be a knee jerk reaction. And that is the perfect time to be talking to somebody else
Mhm.
about your longer term goals
Yes.
and more options that might be available to you. I've definitely have known women who are just working until they get married and have a family. And there's a totally difference. They're just killing time. I don't know, that's just staying busy, staying, enjoy, but they've got this goal of no, I want to be Susie Homemaker. I want to, be the Pinterest, this is what I've dreamed of. This is my goal. But then there's the woman who has just spent 9 months. I mean, she's been working all this time, like you said, all through her 20s and all this. And then she spent 9 months incubating the biggest project of her life.
Yes.
And then you're laying in the hospital being overwhelmed with hormones and
Oh.
exhaustion and things like that. And looking at childcare prices. And yeah, there's a lot going on. And you just don't, if you make the knee jerk reaction, you won't have confidence in your decision later on, even if it's the same decision. You
Yeah.
just want to be very intentional. And so it's not that one way is better than the other. It's not that you're going to be a
No,
better
no.
mom if you devote all your time, or you'll be a better, mom because you're more fulfilled by your career. It's none of that. It's a very personal journey.
Mhm.
And it is a wonderful, wonderful time to, I think, slow down, hit a little bit of pause, and find out, wait, who am I going to be in this new next stage of my life? And is it possible to do both? And
Yep. Power of
yeah,
and.
yeah, the
And.
power of and. I
Yep.
love it. I love that you teach that concept. I think that is just such a beautiful, beautiful way of saying it.
Thank you.
Okay, Coach Britt. Okay, before we um, close out, is there anything else that you'd want to share with the woman who has got big career goals and
Mhm.
big home goals and maybe a big laundry pile?
Yes. Oh, well, first off, honey, we all have the laundry pile. Okay, we do. We just do. Yeah, I would say, uh, listen to your gut. If there is something inside you, it's called intuition. And women, we have some of the best there is out there. Leaning into your gut, leaning into your intuition, saying, hey, I think I still really want to be this career driven woman, but I also want to be this mom. How do I do both? And then we don't have to choose. And that the career may look different, the days spent may look different than what they once were, but that's part of, like you said, April, that's part of the journey. You get to decide in this beautiful moment, in this beautiful season, okay, what does my next chapter kind of look like? And you get to infuse the pieces of your life that you want in that chapter. You don't have to choose.
Infuse the pieces of your life that you want in that next chapter. Oh, that's beautiful. So poetic.
Thank
Okay.
you.
How can women find you and get more from you?
Okay, I love it. So I would say the easiest way is to go to onfirewellness.com. So I teach total wellness. So onfirewellness.com. Fill out the contact page, or you can always go to my Instagram, which is Brittany_Tollinchi. And there, link in the bio for a free 30-minute consult, just if you're kind of interested in what does this whole coaching thing maybe look like. And I would love to chat with anyone. I've got some big things happening in 2024, some more offers for all of you. So I'm excited to roll that out and just stay in touch and connect.
Oh my goodness. It's so amazing. Hey, y'all, I'll make sure that those links are in the show notes so that you can find them. But if you feel like you have been struggling in this, thinking, especially if you feel like you're trapped in, it's either or, I can be a good mom or a good wife, but I cannot, or a good worker, but there's a struggle to have both. And Or if you are struggling with placing boundaries, if it feels like it's hard, because it is hard, let's just admit,
It is. It is.
it's a muscle that you have to build. I'm still, picturing the staying in your own lane, but it's a swimming pool with buoys, and they can a little bit, but they're
Yep.
still
Yep.
there.
Yep. The whole like life doesn't just fall apart because the buoy had to pivot just slightly, and that's what
Scoop,
you're
because
going
you
for.
bumped against it a little bit,
Yeah.
or somebody
Yeah.
bumped against it. Somebody bumped into yours. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, anyway, look her up, follow her. She's got wonderful, wonderful stuff that'll be able to help you. So, anything
Oh,
else?
thank you. April, I just so appreciate you. Thank you. I just love your authenticity, your brilliance. Thank you for having me today, and sharing with your audience. I just so appreciate you.
No, uh, thank you. It has been a pleasure interviewing you, and this is a topic near and dear to my heart. I've enjoyed my work out in the corporate world. I've enjoyed working from home. I really enjoy working from home. That's fun. And I enjoy having conversations. And I just I know that more women would like to do both if they just felt confident that they were doing both well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I will release that.
So,
Yes. Yes. Love
all
it.
right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.